Welcome, everyone. We're back for the first edition of Cut to the Jase for 2026. I almost said 2025. Hope everyone had a good Christmas and a happy new year. We're really excited to be back on board for another year, Jase, after the start we had. But of course, I'm Braden Hazelhurst, website editor of basketball.com.au. And of course, welcoming in the man himself, Jason Cadee. Jase, how was your break, mate? And how good is it to be back?
Awesome to be back. Obviously, we've got big plans, big things coming up for the show. Something we kind of just started and it's just grown and grown and grown. But it was good, the break. First time not having basketball to play. I watched a lot. But it was good to be home. Family came into town and we just got to hang around the house and in and out of the pool. So, yeah, it's been a nice break, but I'm really looking forward to 2026. It's going to be a big year.
Yeah, a bit of a bad luck jinx for the Bendigo Spirit when you're in the stadium. We have a 10-game winning streak snapped the other night, but there's been so much happening over the break. We've got stars standing out in college basketball, and that's sort of heating up now towards March Madness, which will be around the corner before we know it. WNBL and NBL is heating up. Obviously, we know Adelaide has sort of separated themselves. Southeast Melbourne doing really well. WNBL, it was kind of a three-team race there for a while, and then all of us lost in the past week, and all had streaks sort of snapped, and that race is heating up to be part of the top four as well. So plenty happening, mate. And then obviously the NBA, we've got Josh Giddey injured now, but he's in all-star form. I think will make his first all-star team. Dyson Daniels, the Atlanta Hawks, have looked good without Trae Young. It looks like he's going to get traded. And the other one, Johnny Furphy's on the rise. The other one, I know we mentioned it a little bit before, Jase, but Jock Landale is having a season to remember. And I'm actually doing a bit of a story in the works, hopefully this week or early next week, and comparing it to some of the best years Aussie bigs have had in the NBA, because he's been an absolute standout for the Grizzlies this year.
No, you're right. There's lots happening, but he's kind of found his place, right? And sometimes it's not necessarily in the NBA whether you're talented enough. Like, yes, you have to have talent and opportunity has to arise, but sometimes sticking is just landing in the right spot. And he kind of has. He's landed at a spot where opportunity is presented, with obviously the big fella Edie being injured, and Jock's just been great. And he's shot the ball well, and he's done the little things, and those consistent minutes he's found have now just transpired to him having the confidence to say, well, actually, I truly do. I think he already knew he belonged there, but now I actually belong playing minutes and having this impact. It's been the four guys you mentioned. Like, obviously, Furphy's gone through his injury, but now he's starting to play minutes again. Josh has been amazing. Like, he has actually been amazing in what he's done. The numbers he's doing for that franchise in terms of numbers just in history have been incredible. And Dyson continues to grow. And then, as you said, the WNBL, Perth, Bendigo, and Townsville have separated themselves, where you guys all almost have the same record, which is crazy. And then the NBL is just as crazy. Melbourne on the slide. Adelaide have started to shine. Sydney have been great. Now they go through some adversity. It's truly all happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And just before we move on to NBL, which we're going to start the show with today, another NBA player to mention, Josh Green, coming back from injury.
Yeah.
And I know his role's sort of limited, but he's had a major impact on that team. And they've had some big wins when they've had their full team. They just pumped OKC the other day in OKC. So that young Charlotte team looks on the rise, and good to see Josh Green back. But Jase, there's been plenty happening in the NBL, and that's where we're going to start today. Before we get into our interview with special guest and Australian and NBL basketball legend Cal, the Black Pearl Bruton, we're going to get into your JC 5 points to start the show today, with so much happening in the NBL. And number one, there's nowhere else you can go with this one than Melbourne at the moment, ununited.
Yeah, yeah, they are. And I didn't see this coming. I tipped them at the start of the year to win the whole thing. For half the season, I was 100% spot on. And I knew that they weren't maybe the best team, but I thought they'd be the most consistent with their roster. But they've actually shown zero consistency because they've just dropped off. And I sit here as a fan without being on the inside of those four walls. And I'm just a little bit puzzled because it's a team that's got so much consistency throughout their journey of the last 5-6 years. They've got probably the best coach in the league, maybe if you want to, but Dean Vickerman has been in those talks for a long time. They've got a stable roster. They got veterans. They got youth. They've just hit the skids, and they are actually getting to a point now where the whole they'll figure it out. They're actually getting to a point now where it's not becoming oh yeah, they'll figure it out. It's like they need to figure it out, or that slide is going to continue, and who knows where they end up, because right now, Southeast and Sydney probably pass them very soon, and they slide down to 4th, 5th, wherever they end up.
And 7 of their last 9, they've lost, Jase. And, even a bounce back game from CG43 last night couldn't get them the win. Now, it has sort of coincided with Shea Ely being out again, but that's got to be remedied somehow, because we know Shea has been out at crucial times in the past, 3 or 4 years. So they've got to be able to deal. What do you think it is watching this team? Because it's a bit puzzling at the moment.
I actually had this conversation with Peach last night, and it was funny. Earlier on in the year, they didn't need Shea. They were winning games without Shea, so everyone kind of just forgot the impact he has. I actually think now it's caught up to him with what possibly was going to happen early. Just Shea's impact on the group. I think Tyson Walker's grown tired. I think he's not as fresh as he was earlier in the year, where he could play those spot minutes, especially once Shea was coming back. Shea's impact of just being able to do things on both sides of the ball, carry it at times, know how to get CG the ball. I just think they're missing his impact. Obviously, Finn for going out for a few games, but I think Shea's now needed. If you're Melbourne, though, you cannot rush him back in, given that he's now come back twice and hurt himself again, hamstring related. So they really have to be careful, but if they're going to win it, they need him back in their lineup. I know I just said not rush it, but they need him back sooner rather than later to get this thing back on the right track.
I know we spoke about it before the break, but I was a little bit puzzled last night. And I'm, knowing how tough coaching is, I'm not one to bag out coaching and different things, but I was a bit puzzled with how CG played last night, that he couldn't get a touch in that last possession, or at least be involved in that action. Is that a bit of a concern? I know Milton has come up big in those moments, but he's been struggling as of late, and CJ was on one last night.
Yeah, I really like Milton Doyle as a person and a player, so I kind of would almost back him to make decisions. He did miss Chris wide open on one kick out, but once again, Milton Doyle shooting a wide open 3 is something for years we'd say that normally wins you a game. I just think it's a sign of where their group's at. I think they're all trying to figure it out, because there are a lot of good people down there, good staff. They're trying to figure it out. Sometimes when you're trying to figure it out, you kind of go on your own track of, I can do this, I can do this. And I think that's a sign. I think Chris, to your point, last night he wasn't a heater. He has had a period of struggling, which you probably haven't seen him do for a few years, because he's been just incredible. I just think their group right now is actually at a loss of what the right answer is, and it's correlated to them not being able to win games. And now you can see them actually trying to find ways to win games, where earlier on in the year, they were winning games.
Yeah, and they really need to figure it out very soon. But it does have that feel that everyone's sort of, trying too hard to get it going, which then can sort of at times cascade things. But we'll move on to the next point, Jason. I'm glad you didn't have the game before this, the curtain raiser for this on your list. But Southeast Melbourne versus Sydney Kings at Kudos Bank Arena on Monday night. The game of the season, more than 235 points scored in that game. Southeast Melbourne get the win. That was an epic contest between those two teams.
Just insane. And like for me, I said before the game in the pre-game show, I said, Brad Rosen asked me every week, you missed basketball yet? You missed basketball yet? And I normally say, no, I'm good. I walked into Adelaide to commentate. I missed basketball. And then the other night going for the Southeast Sydney, knowing what a big game that was for both teams, I had that almost pre-game nerves where I was driving to the arena, and you have that feel as a player. And so I was excited for it, and just what both teams delivered. And I had a few people say, the defense, there was no defense. But I actually think if you go back, both teams, the way they defend is they rattle teams. They get after groups. And I watched Sydney play Brisbane 6 days earlier. Sydney rattled Brisbane that they couldn't actually punish the press. They couldn't punish the pressure. So it just ended up coming out terribly, where both teams play against that every day. So in a way, they were just punishing what normally works against other teams by just taking advantage of what it normally opens up, and full court pressure often open up the other end of the floor. If you can attack it, if you can attack pressure, it normally pulls the reins back. So both teams were just incredible offensively. They just took what the defense was giving them and exploited it. And we've seen some individual performances in it. We've seen some shooting displays in it. And it just truly was a really great game of basketball.
I know we've spoken about how big Sobes has been. We'll talk about him a bit later. But does the addition of Ian Clark change your opinion of Southeast Melbourne as far as being that team that's around the top to now being a championship contender, that they've got that guy that can help Sobes?
Yeah, because you look at even the other night, they have the luxury now of Ian Clark is an elite teammate. He's been an elite person in the NBL. He's been an elite person in the NBA. He knows and loves the landscape of Australia. He's not here to play 35 minutes a game. Yes, he will play it if required, but you could tell even the other night, he's still finding his way, and they're able to figure out ways to score. He's going to draw people to him as well. And if they all focus on someone like Sobes and how he's playing right now, Ian's going to benefit. And then all of a sudden people go, I've got him over there. I've got Foxwell or Glover over here. Got these pieces. I just think he opens up the world as someone who can come off the bench. And on a night where maybe Sobes is drawing a lot of attention, he can get going. On a night where he just needs to be another guy on the floor, he can do that. He's got experience. He knows how to win. I just think it's a great pickup, and I think it's a great pickup because they don't need to rely on him. Whatever he brings is an added bonus.
And just quietly, Owen Foxwell about to get a bit of a bag in college basketball potentially next season as well, which is good for him. Good for him. Next one, we're going to move on to the Sydney Kings, Jason. Before Chrissy, they were absolutely rolling, had 2 wins over Melbourne United and the Adelaide 36ers. And then they have a comeback loss against Adelaide. And now they've got Bull Qual out for the season, who's been such a big part of what they've done defensively and shutting down those big guns. Where do you see they're at now?
Yeah, and I want to start it by just giving a shout out to Bull, because he's one of those guys you hate to play against him, and you probably I never got to, but you'd love to play with him just because he brings that energy, and he's really pushed the boundaries of, I'm going to take this so far to see where the refs go with it. And it's worked in his favour more than not this year. He hasn't fouled as much, and he's really helped Sydney create that identity by being the lead of just being that guy. And so for him to go down, you never want to see someone get hurt. You never want to see someone go through what he's about to go through in the rehab. And I just think it sucks for him. And it sucks for their team because they'd really started to find a rhythm, as you said, in the past kind of 6 weeks. And then they go out, and my thing with Sydney is it's just more, I wanted to give them credit. They've been playing great basketball, a great brand of basketball. They're kind of replicating what Gorge used to have his teams playing like many years ago, that as we grew up all remember. And to have Zave go out 4 minutes into that game, obviously he's going to be coming through an ankle injury now. How bad that is, we'll see. I think he'll still play. But they've just got some things to navigate now. But losing Bull long term will hurt them. But I also look at someone they have not utilised at all for recent weeks is Jalen Galloway, and I just think there's so much potential in what he can bring on both ends of the floor. He's an incredible defender, and he can bring a lot offensively. So opportunity will arise. McQuestion's been great, but Sydney have been really good. It's just more, I'm really interested in how they rebound through this, because now there's even talk of them going to get an import.
And just quickly, don't put as we grew up in that category. You're a couple of years older than me, mate. So let's not go there. But I guess the next one you're going to is the MVP discussion. Bryce, Kendrick Davis, and Nathan Sobey.
Listen, Bryce is the MVP. Let's not. I know some people have had, like even Cadee, you look at his first probably 7-8 games, they were a bit inconsistent. And later on, he's really come on and he's playing great basketball. Bryce, over the course of the year, has been basically Bryce the whole time. So I just don't think this is really... I think Bryce will win the MVP. I think he deserves to win it. Adelaide are 19-4 or whatever they are. What he's done going into this franchise, a new setting, and personally how he's played has been incredible. But those 3 players, KD, Bryce, and Sobes, have been incredible in the way they've played. Their teams are in the top 4. And we touched on Sobes before, even watching him the other night. He's just in a different place mentally, physically, the way he's playing. Those 3 guys deserve all the credit they'll get. They deserve to be the final 3 in the MVP voting, and they deserve to be all NBL first team as of today.
Yeah, absolutely. And your 5th point, you got to go to someone who's on the rise after coming back from injury, and that's one of our best local bigs in Sam Froland.
Yeah, just to get back, like to think he did this back in March, right? Like he was in the grand final series, tears his Achilles, and now here we are, Christmas Day, and Sam Froling suiting up. Shout out to him, just great person. He's a great person. They're a great family. And for him to get back on the court, but also to just have such a positive influence straight away. Like, he's coming and just hit the ground running, which is hard to do. And realistically, we're not going to see his best basketball till next season. It takes time to get back, but for him to come back and have the impact he is, it gives Illawarra a chance. And I just think it's always great to see people bounce back from things, because unfortunately, basketball sport, you go through things. And Sam's just one of those examples of going through it and being able to bounce back.
And just quietly, with him playing better and JaVale and some of the firepower that Illawarra has, I don't think teams want to see them in the play-in either. So interesting to watch with Illawarra going forward. But that's all we have for this section of the show. We're going to move on to our interview with Australian basketball legend, Cal Bruton. Welcome back to Cut to the Jase. And what a way to start the new year with our first special guest for the year. We've got an absolute legend on the show today. NBL champion, both as a player and a coach, an NBL Coach of the Year, one of the first inductees into the NBL Hall of Fame, and most importantly, Jase, one of the swaggiest people you'll ever see around a basketball stadium in the country. Cal, the Black Pearl himself, Bruton. Cal, how are you, mate? Welcome to Cut to the Jase.
Thank you, Braden and Jason. Thank you for having me. I'm keenly looking forward to this.
No, it's our pleasure, mate, because we've both known you a very, very long time. And before I get into the good stuff, let's actually talk about the real stuff. Do you remember me and you playing a bit of one-on-one back in Coffs Harbour? I don't even know how long ago now, but I would have been about 11 or 12 years old, I reckon.
I don't remember that one. I remember you testing me now, but Jace, I've seen you and your family for years and years, and yeah, we've met up on a few occasions in different spots, and you always wanted to challenge me one-on-one.
I'd still probably try and do it now. I might actually win now. I couldn't back then. But Braden, this was back when Dad was the CEO of the Razorbacks. He brought Cal in to take over for the back half of the season, I think it was, and Cal took over the Razorbacks as the head coach. And so I was just running around, and I remember every time I could, Cal, let's have a shooting competition. Let's play one-on-one.
CJ's exactly the same. Even when he was coaching, he always wanted to play everyone one-on-one after training and everything like that. So it runs in the family, huh?
It runs through the family. My son Brooklyn's now traveling the country, challenging guys one-on-one on a live stream.
It's a Bruton thing. Cal, tell us what you've been up to. Obviously, you're always around. Like, I see you at everything. You're doing so much in basketball. You have forever, and we could go on, and we will go on about some of that. But currently, what are you doing in the world of basketball? And I know you're doing a lot of charity work at the moment.
Well, that's really pretty much the main thing. I'm, the Bruton Basketball Foundation. It's been off and running for like 5 years now, and we've been able to secure a partnership with Game Above, a company in America. Connected with a guy named Keith Stone and also George Gervin. Keith Stone is a part owner of the Brisbane Bullets, and through George Gervin, they arranged for me to meet with them in Brisbane, and then they decided that they would support my charity. On top of that, I've been coaching kids here in the ACT for, I've been here 27 years now, and I've been running the Futures program currently, which is under 14, under 12, boys and girls. Every week I run through that. I'm coaching locally at the high school, Bergman, which is right in back of my house. I can walk there. And of course, doing the promotions, I've been traveling the country through my son's organization, Austin Bruton. He's got the APM, which is Australian Personnel Management. And we travel. We've done 7 programs in Darwin, Cairns. We've been to the country towns, Bendigo, Wagga Wagga, helping long-term unemployed and Indigenous secure employment. And we use as Braden said, our swag in our bag, spit, work ethic, attitude, and goals. We use that to try to help them gain employment and also further their education so that they can, be good citizens. So yeah, we've been busy. We've been really busy.
Did I see as well, Cal, that you're coaching an ACT under-20s team at the National Championships later this month?
Yeah, I put my hand up because the girls haven't won a game in 2 years. And I can't be representing the ACT and we don't get no W's. So I got approached to put my hand up. Last year I was going to coach the under-20 men, and it was going to be a privilege because I had my grandson in the team, Rio, as he was living here. I had my son Dante, the youngest, and also I had a few young boys that have been with me from day one, Ajax Nguyen and a few other Sudanese kids that I felt we could have got a medal. But I missed out. I got told I was just missed out on the appointment. And of course, the team didn't win a game at the whole tournament. But this year, I thought the girls, I like to challenge that. And I got a good group of girls. We had selections. But as you know, in under-20s, it's a difficult time of the year with graduations and formals and school holidays and Christmas. And so we only just had the full team come together on Tuesday. And I got a running coach that got them on the track. So they're looking at me like, oh, is this what we're doing?
You might be the first person to ever put a nationals group through a preseason for the tournament, but I guarantee it'll help as that week goes on.
I hope so. I mean, I got a good group of girls. They listen. And I like the way the girls take on board, the little nuances that you put out there. Obviously, structure is always a big thing when you put a new group together. But what I've been able to refine is that we're not doing everything that everyone else does. We're going to sit to take advantage of the girls' skill set and try to put them in the best possible position to be successful.
Sounds like a guy who knows basketball. Now we're going to jump around because I know been around the Brutons a long time and I know we can jump around and talk about all different things. But first, let's get to what's happening now because this is coming really soon. I think it's a really exciting space for basketball in Australia. You're kind of the go-to man and you're going to be doing a lot with NBA legend, The Answer, Allen Iverson, coming out to Australia next week. Tell us everything about this because we've had some really cool people coming out and AI might be one of the best.
That's true, Jason. I've been here when we had no Americans coming out to actually professionals come in. And of course, when Magic Johnson first made his tour and George Gervin came out with a group, this phenomenon now is happening more often than not. But having AI, a guy who set the pace in the late 90s, early 2000s, with a cultural change, when he brought out you're talking about swaggy. No one was more swaggy than him with all the chains and the corn braids and the cornrows. And also he had, he had a game to match, and everyone kind of idolized the crossover. And with his ability to gravitate toward the younger generation and get those players to all look up to him, guys that are now currently in the Hall of Fame of the NBA. And I think that kind of lit the fuse for future generations of players wanting to handle the ball and bounce it 35 times. Obviously, only need like 2 or 3. But what he's doing is he's coming out. He's activating a lot of programs. We're going to have, dunk contests, 3-point contests. He's going to do a Q&A, which I think is going to be pretty special in digging into his past and understanding how you can deal with, resilience and adversity and still come out the other end, with $50 million in the bank, so that's a real education for a lot of these young people to know that, basketball is bigger than that. It's all about how you can secure the bag, as they say, for your family and future generations. And I think Allen has brought about, like the old Frank Sinatra saying, doing it my way. And when you can do it your way, as he says, I'm not fake, and I've kind of look at myself in a similar light. I've had to go through the school of hard knocks, getting to the top, and then all of a sudden say, do not pass go, do not collect your $200 and go straight to the bottom and start again, So I've done that on a few occasions and I had to jump out the game for a while, but stay connected with the junior kids. And that's why I get grandparents and all coming up to me, thanking me for when I've coached their kids way back when. But Allen has sort of had so many more tentacles than I because he's been to the top of the league in the NBA. So it's pretty exciting to have him sort of put the footprints down here. And I think we'll learn a lot and gain a great education from where he started to where he's at now.
Now, take us through what's happening, because he'll obviously be at Hoops Fest, but then he's doing a bit of a tour of the East Coast. Is that right, Cal?
That's correct. Well, the first stop after that is coming to Brisbane with the Hoopers Heaven. He's going to be involved in and a few activities there. We're gonna have interviews, and obviously, you got packages up online which you can go search out on the Ticketify. And I think what we're gonna do on court is gonna be pretty special. He's got a chance to have a chat and watch him go through what he did on court to perfect his crossover. Everyone's had a different type of crossover. Jason had one that he just cut between the legs, crossover in the front. Now, Iverson was going every which way with his, but I think each and every one of us picked up something from him. I think he's going to have obviously he's going to have some after game activities that I think a few people would love to be involved with, but I haven't met the entourage that's going to be around him. But through the people that I'm contacted with Global Tours, they're going to make sure that it's going to be a highlight of everyone's that attends it. So we encourage, there's tickets left. You can go online and secure them. But, we got to keep some things in the bag so that you can be very interested when you actually see them. But now it's going to be a pretty special event, and I'm very proud to be associated with it.
No, and that kind of access is something that in Australia we probably take for granted at times but we don't really get it. So to be able to have that out here in person is a whole different world. And when you go on with some of the guys we've had coming out, like you're coming out here now you're an Australian. I just see you as an Australian. Yes, you're from the States, but you are an Australian. But you came out here as one of the first guys to truly take over the league and just pave your way as this American import that just could do everything on a basketball court. Now, AI transcends for us smaller guards around, can really get some things done. But how do you see that, like with guys like Melo, Scottie Pippen? We've had some icons on them for a few years, and you said it before that we don't normally, for a long time, we didn't get them out here. How do you feel now that you got a guy like AI as well, just to add to that list of guys we've seen recently?
I'm honored and feel blessed to still be around, to be a part of this sort of opportunity. As you mentioned, I went to Hoop Fest last year with Kenny Smith and Melo and Pip then came to our NBL dinner, and I was able to bring my son Austin along, so we all mingled with them, and that was a wonderful thing. And of course, I've been involved with a few pros, like way back in the 90s when Michael Jordan held his 3-on-3 Gatorade. He didn't come, but he did come, and no one knew about it. He just slipped up in Western Australia, did a little thing there with the Broom people, and then slipped out. And then my son's team was able to win the under-16 bracket, and we got an all-expense-paid trip to go sit with Mike and ask him anything we wanted to for an hour, which was an eye-opener for just me. And he looked at me and said, "Are you Australian?" I said, "Yes." And he looked at, I said, "But I'm from Brooklyn." Same place you're from. And then also I had the opportunity of taking the Canberra Cannons before they disappeared out of the competition, but we went over and played with Magic against Michigan State. I think that was the first time anything like that was able to happen. And now, like you said, the caliber of player, person, cultural icon, and Allen Iverson to come here and travel the country. He's on the West Coast, East Coast, to reach out to each and every one of us and let us know how he went about achieving the goals that he set for himself. I think it's a very exciting time for Australian future because now, as you know, we have 12, 13, 14 NBA players. When I arrived in 79, as you said, I was trying to get out my identity happening so I can bring my family back because I left them back at home. And then I had to come back in 1980 and go to Geelong, which weren't in the National League, but helped them get there. And then once we got there, we went straight to the grand final, so it was a real cultural change for us because I was one of the first Black Americans to come here along with Herb McEachin. And that was a funny day because when I seen him, I thought, gee, there's a brother on the other side. He's better. And of course, we had Danny Morsu and Claude Williams, who were the first two Indigenous players in the comp. But once I got together with Herb, I said, "You see anyone else?" He goes, "Nah, man, it's just us." I was like, "Oh, shucks, we in for one now." So to see the success that he's had and then I had, and then of course people wanted to match up with us, so they brought out more Americans, and then there was more Black Americans. But I have to say, back in 1980, when I played in Geelong in the VBA, we played against the Melbourne Tigers. And when we walked on the court, Andrew was only a 15-year-old pumpkin back then, and he was coming off the bench because they had 5 Americans. And I thought, yeah, but those guys are still here, like Alan Westover, Bruce Palmer, Brian Gorgian, and they had Hugh Hovis and Scott Mitchell, and then they just changed. But Lindsey wasn't shy. He knew the game had to grow and to bring in that American talent to help spread the word about how good the game is and how far it can take you. And those guys did a wonderful job in establishing the culture for Australian basketball. And as we know now, we got guys making $100 million. So that's really a true blessing to our game and to those that come before us to help build it up that way.
Well, you've just said it, changing the culture here in Australia, and you went back before AI kind of changed the culture. We've had people throughout my journey, especially your journey, like you've had guys like Steph and Jordan, Kobe, LeBron, like all the guys that have had a shift. But AI kind of really changed the culture in the NBA back in the early probably 2000s, late 90s. Can you give us an insight? You just gave me an insight what it was like coming to Australia, but can you give an insight on what that kind of did for basketball globally with what AI was able to achieve?
Well, as you would appreciate, there was rules on top of rules back then, with the NBA leadership. I think you got, obviously, I can't think of the previous CEO of the
David Stern.
David Stern, yep. But before David Stern, there was one that said, "Okay, hold up, we're not dressing like that. Here's a dress code," right? And I remember having Geelong. We used to come to the game in suits, and in the Perth Wildcats, we come out with the white blazers and I'm sorry, the white pants, the black blazers, and the tie. Now you see tracksuits everywhere, but AI was like, no, I'm not dressing like that. I don't wear a suit only to funerals and church. and maybe an occasional wedding, which he didn't go to very many. So my thing was, you know what? If you can establish a professional attitude, then that's a head start into raising the profile of the game. But at the same time, he said, "Find me. Just take my money, because I'm not doing that. That's not me." And it's hard to stick to those sorts of principles when they take your money out of your pocket. So that was the first I felt was the initial change. And I looked at my son Austin, who got AI all over his room and posters and the whole bit. And he had the cornbread and he had the freaking band on his head. Then he's going to get the drip. It was all fake, of course, but he's got 5 chains hanging from his neck. And I thought, you know what? This is an exciting time to see that take effect from a guy that's sitting in Philadelphia and he's having an effect on someone sitting in West Australia. So to me, that's the biggest thing that AI brought, that you can be yourself. And you can still make your impact on the game. And I've never seen him really, and I don't know, maybe you can tell me where you've seen him, Jason, really show him in the workout session, going through his exercise bits and pieces to get his game to where it was. I never seen anything. I never seen any clips. I seen him walk in the gym with Stephon Marbury at the end of the career, and they having a chat, and they did a little ball handling and shot. But to know that he had that sort of ability and talent, and to see him do that on the court against the best in the world and come out on top. And unfortunately, he didn't win a chip, but he was there, knocking at the door.
Yeah.
And it was a bit sad that he didn't at that one point when he had that crew in Philadelphia. But he had to bounce around after that, Denver, Detroit, Memphis, and to see him sort of finish up in the Hall of Fame and see the flowers that was given to him showed that he really, truly impacted not only American, but as you mentioned, Jason, on the international scene.
Well, what do you think for people that are going to try and come and watch him or see him talk while he's here? You mentioned it a little bit there. What do you think is the most impressive thing about his journey? Because you've got a pretty incredible journey yourself, Cal, but he grew up in some tough environments, then sort of found himself at Georgetown, and that sort of helped him. And then, had some tough moments in the NBA while he was at Philly, and then towards the end where he sort of, finished up, probably not on his terms, and then was able to sort of go back to Philly for a last hurrah. So he's been through it and been able to bounce back each time, I guess. So what do you see as his sort of most impressive part throughout his journey that people back here might find interesting if they go see him?
I think what he would probably share with you is that journey. There's not many young men that go to prison and then come out of it and then able to go on to a bigger stage. Not many people probably know this about me, but I was, in my book, I've written it, I was placed in a mental institution by my mom. when I failed at San Antonio Spurs. I thought I was in. I played exhibition season, made the team, went on the road, came back after 4 games, and then they pulled me in and said I'm no longer there. Then I lost all my luggage, everything I owned, and had to go back to New York with just the clothes I had on, and it was a setback. My mom thought I was depressed and all that, so she locked me away. The ambulance came and took me away. I was in there for like 4 weeks, and I had to really sit back and think about where I go from here. I already had a son and a stepson, and I had to figure out like how I'm going to support them. I think when AI went to prison, he had the same sort of revelation. He had to figure it out. Where do I go from here? And you know what helped us? The mentors. And that's why I pride myself on being one of those today. A lot of kids reach out to me all the time to ask, how can I get on this pathway, to a better, a more successful, sorry about that, lifestyle. And what I was able to pass on to them was that, you got to pack your pride in your suitcase. You're going to have to persevere through those hard times because they're coming. You got to have respect for yourself, for your family, and for the game or the passion that you showing to whatever you're doing. And I think it's very important to be an influencer in a positive sort of a way. Determination, dedication, discipline, desire, and having a detailed goal set on how you're going to go about it, which my sons, I make them put it on the back of the wall so they can get up and read it every day and provide the checklist. And I think nothing's going to happen without putting in the effort. And what I was able to garnish out of Alan and also my own experiences was that you have to believe in yourself because no one else will. And if you got support, which I think is the most important part, you got mentors like Jason, your family's been beautiful. Your dad, I've been knowing him from dot one. And your mom, seeing how the administration and you being able to be in the gym, where they right there in the office. Same with CJ. He's come through all that sort of environment where, to me, you meet positive people around a good sport. And you can get a mentor that will actually show an interest in you. And when you got that sort of vibe, I say attitudes are contagious. Is yours worth catching? And once you get that positive attitude and that outlook, nothing will hold you back. So you'll go through the school of hard knocks. I think that's all part of it. The setbacks and the adversity. But then when you come out the other side, you feel good about yourself. And now you can pass those lessons on to the younger generation. So I think that's what Alan will be able to converse with the group of people that will be here to listen to him. And if you can see it up and close and personal, that'd be better again. But he's going to talk about the resilience. So like you just got to believe in it, and you got to, keep it trying to reach your goals. I'm coming up 72 years of age. I still got goals I got to get to, and I've been traveling the country, as I mentioned, working with BBF, Bruton Basketball Foundation. And it's all about reaching out to those less privileged and underserved communities. Because I was that guy, growing up without a dad, and my mom struggled with my 2 younger sisters. And she told me I gotta stay on the path, she can't afford for me to take her out, and fortunately I was able to bring her over here 3 times. So she got a chance to see before she passed away on what we were doing. And she was so proud. So I think that's the key, to pack the pride suitcase.
No, it's incredible insight, and it's so true. I think the one thing in basketball, you mentioned my family, but I've always said I felt like basketball gives you a platform and a place, whether you make it or not. But if you grow up in that atmosphere, you meet some great people along the way that you come out the other side with, and you're better for knowing those. And it's purely around the game of basketball.
I agree, 100%. The ones you meet along the journey are the ones that, as you say, you never know who you're talking to. So it pays to be kind, and be respectful. So those people come back. I'm looking at you now. You got the TV. You got the step one.
He's everywhere, man.
Yeah, everywhere. It's been going, and that's through
Very much
people you meet as you go along, and the way you've presented yourself. I think is so important. I remember you're gonna find this is an odd one, Jason, but I was in the car on the phone when you first arrived in Adelaide, and I was zipped up while you were talking to CJ, and you were talking about a player that he need to go. You said you just came in, landed, and you like, yo, I'm looking at this dude, he need to go, and I kind of had a bit of a snicker because I had said something similar to CJ, like, what's up with him, and sure enough, what that did was open the door for someone else to come in and bring their special gifts to the program. And I think when you got people that come in that's not fully engaged or committed, then
Yeah.
we can lose a lot of ground. And I always say, like Allen, there's an iceberg in every team that you join. The people at the top of the iceberg shine, but there's people at the bottom of the iceberg. If they got any sort of negativity or erodes the iceberg, those at the top come down as the iceberg submerges in the water. So if the bottom of that iceberg is solid and everyone feels like they're making a contribution, then the iceberg rises. And that's pretty much what's happening now in Adelaide with Cotton sitting on the top of the iceberg. And the iceberg at the bottom is solid. You know, I'm looking at, what's his name? Is it Mike? Ran the one kid that's from Adelaide, but he played in Perth. He's not getting an inch of playing time. But I'm big on body language and all that. And I see him jump off the bench and he's pumping it up.
Yeah.
And he's a kid that deserves to probably play somewhere else. He probably get playing time, but he's not going to be in a winning team like this.
Yeah.
Or you act accordingly and try to help the team rise. So that's what I'm learning from all my experiences and seeing what AI is going through. And now he's drawing Shaq with him. Ain't nobody bigger than Shaq in this world in terms of showing what contributions to the world and to those less fortunate and what he does. And to me, that's a pure blessing.
Spot on. I need to ask you, because Hoops Fest is new, right? Last year was its first year. This year it's going to be even bigger and better by what's going on, AI. How have you enjoyed Hoops Fest? Like, you were someone who spent some time in WA, obviously, in your life. And now this event, how do you see Hoops Fest in general? Separate, obviously, including AI. How do you think and you see it from a basketball lover of Australia?
Well, last year when I attended Hoop Fest, it was all, like you said, fairly new. It was new, period. And they had all the under 20 kids there playing in the little tournament, and they had Cynthia Cooper come over to represent the women. They had Terry Porter sitting in the stands, who my son CJ had played with in Portland. I saw that as an eye-opener for everyone. I paid for 2 young kids who were soon these kids here to come over to Hoop Fest so they can see it. Now they're getting ready to go off to college and bigger things, because that's aspirations and inspiration for them. So Hoop Fest in Perth in particular, where the government is right behind the basketball, and Mark Arena, who I find is a great man, who has now owned the team outright in Perth, has invested in making Perth probably the highest profile club, other than Sydney, of course. But Western Australia as a state is right behind this, and having all the NBL clubs there, and having that list leading with AI, but more importantly having all the activation around Hoop Fest.
Yeah,
I know we went to we did the different stadium stuff. We had skyboxes. We went to the different games. The WNBL, which is truly on the rise right now as well. So having the women there, it's impactful. And as I mentioned, otherwise, it's spreading throughout. So that's like a launching pad. I see Hoop Fest as a part of the culture from this point on. I don't know who's going to pay that bill next time around. But at the end of the day, it's really impregnated basketball into the hearts of many Australians. Now that we got this as being one of the fastest growing sports in the world, or in Australia in particular, I think that's going to help our game grow, and we get more people involved at the high level, but we get more playing at the lower level. So going back to the iceberg theory.
That's the one thing that I found last year. It was so new and everyone was trying to figure it out. But like, I remember with us at Adelaide, when we got there was the event going on at RAC Arena that day where it was like the one-on-one contest. There was stalls around. And I remember half our group being like, let's go check it out. Because we were like, what's going on? And like, we walk in, and when I say our whole team rolled up, and that's Trez and everyone. And we're just wandering around in amongst all these basketball people. Then there's Cairns players there. Bryce Cotton sitting there with some Perth guys. Like, I was actually like, there's not been an event like this. Not in my journey. You have the preseason blitz, but that doesn't incorporate the WNBL junior players. So I actually find the event really cool, and I think it's going to grow. And to your point, like, I've heard great things around Mark Arena, but I think it might become a thing where states actually say, how do we get Hoops Fest to come here? And if we start that process, I think it becomes a great thing for basketball in general.
Well, it's kind of like, sorry, just on that, it's kind of like what the NRL's done with Magic Round, right? Like, it's epic and become its own thing, and Hoops Fest is doing the same thing, Cal.
Yes, I agree. I think also, we're trying to spread the word to those Indigenous organizations, as well as the multicultural, the call, to get them opportunities. And now they realize that basketball is such a vehicle, and if they can get a glimpse of it, it's contagious. So my belief is that Hoop Fest has reached out to all corners of Australia. If you're not in it, you'll be watching it on television. And I think that having, as you mentioned, Jason, the women, the men, you got the pros there, you got the retired veterans that want to be around it. I know when I stepped, only difficulty was for me is that I was taking around a dozen kids each and every day to different events because you couldn't put everything in one stadium. So you had about 5 stadiums to go to try to actually, cater for all the different things they had going on. And that was kind of exciting too. But at the end of the day, you got to pick something and stick to it. But at night, in the evening, when the games were being played, stadium was packed and everyone seemed to be on the same page enjoying themselves.
All right, moving on from Hoops Fest, Cal. Some other issues around the NBL. The expansion is obviously a pretty hot topic, and I did a story with you a while ago now about how you think it needs to be in Canberra and why Canberra deserves it. But can you just take the listeners through why you think Canberra deserves a team to finally be back there?
Well, I think Canberra always, you got the capital city of Australia, not represented in the National Basketball League men. To me, after having an iconic brand over the 80s and the 79, they went to the grand final in their first year. And then in the 80s, win 3 championships with Phil Smythe and Herb and Andy Campbell and crew. And then I came in when they were sort of lulling at the bottom. But then we were able to build up a team that I felt could have won the NBL championship that year, only to be shut down because of financial reasons, which we never seen coming. To not be in the league since 2003 is a travesty to the NBL. And it's not like we don't have talent available to it, because back in those days, they used to recruit straight out of the AIS. A lot of those players used to come through and go straight into the NBL. Then you had the NBA Academy here, which had, top coaches involved with that. You got the national performance programs here. And the kids in Canberra don't have anything to aspire to. They got to bounce, go to U.S. and go college or go NBL 1 somewhere else because there's not enough positions to fill. So from that point of view, I see it as a difficult understanding that if we don't get a team here, then those kids will never have an opportunity to showcase on the national stage. So I believe there's time. We've had the Blitz here. We've had the NBL 1 finals here, showed the enthusiasm of everyone that has been involved with the game, come and pack out the stadium and showcase their excitement for seeing NBL basketball live, or we had a couple exhibition games come here. So I think it's due now, but I'm hearing Gold Coast and Jason, you have ownership in that?
Oh, yeah. I wish.
I hear that they probably a step ahead, but I've been involved with the Blitz since it started. And obviously with the Cal Bruton Cup, I've been able to present it to the winners. And I've been to every single one of them. I see that as an opportunity, for the Gold Coast. If they've done it, I'm sorry, let me go back. Brisbane done the Blitz and they got a team. Tasmania done the Blitz, then they got a team. Gold Coast has had their Blitz and now it's their time. And Canberra's had a Blitz. So I'm hoping that pattern continues, because we got that many players coming out of college with nowhere to go. They have to go to Europe, or they have to go, to China. It'd be nice to know that we can cater for more kids to come play back at their home and be seen on our national showcase rather than have to look at them on YouTube or through the live stream, So that's where I believe that we need a team here in Canberra as well.
Cal, quick one on the expansion. Do you think there's been talked about, I was on a program with ESPN not long ago. Do you think that if we expand to one team, say we bring in the Gold Coast and a few years later, Canberra, do you think with that one team or 2 teams, we need to go to 4 imports instead of 3?
No, I think right now when we got 3 imports and now you got naturalized Australians, like cotton just getting naturalized, and you still got the Next Star program, which can come from anywhere. That's already catering for 5, maybe 6 imported players. And when I say imported, you obviously got naturalized citizens here, so you don't consider them. But at the same time, from their state of origin, I think we need to have opportunities for the young Australian kids, coming back, and the ones that are here. I know I got my 2 younger sons. They both played NBL 1 last year. Now they're trying to step up again and get a bigger role, in their respective team, and that's hard enough, But you can imagine young kids coming from the U.S. and coming back here and looking to apply their trade, but then they're not getting the opportunity because NBL 1 even are bringing down the end of the bench players from the NBL, and that kind of shuts down opportunities as well. So I believe we need to have a couple more teams. I think, when I played back in 83, 84, we had 17 teams in the league. We had 2 divisions. We had the Eastern and the Western, and it was like, who's the best? East, West, have an all-star game, the whole bit. Now we got 10 teams, and we only just got to 10 because we had 8 there for a minute, so we got 10. And now you can see that the talent is at a level where, as I just mentioned, some players can't even crack their rosters and get playing time. But with a couple extra teams, now that kind of opens the door for a few others. And you want it to be a elite competition. You don't want to let anybody in there and be able to just sort of, but you want to give the opportunity to those that really want it. And of course, if they're amongst it, I always say association bring upon assimilation. If you got a kid that can see it and be a part of it, like yourself, Jay, then you rise to the occasion. Before you know it, you're in there and you're making your impact felt.
I've got to ask, Cal, you mentioned the Loggins Bruton Cup before. Now, traditionally, the winners of that cup haven't gone too well during the regular season. When you hand it over, do you kind of go, oh, shit?
Oh, I feel sorry for you, bud. And I felt that about the MVPs, too. I'm going, oh, man. you got a road ahead of you. But you know what? That's interesting. I think it's important to get out the blocks. You don't want to start from the blocks. So you jump out on the blocks, you got to stand it. I mean, we're talking about Melbourne United now. They jump out the blocks and they 9-0, and everyone's saying, gee, they the world beaters. Like, man, no one beating them. And then they've gone 2-7, over the last few. But I think the cup is important, and it's important to win it if you can. It'd be nice to put another $400K on that too, like you're doing this Special Ignite Cup. Now guys are, not only trying to win it, they trying to stay there, because if you put something on the end of the NBL as well, and Larry got some bucks in the corner somewhere. I think you put some money on the championship winner. Now you get a different sort of attitude too. Guys are getting paid very well. I remember getting $400 a week. That was my salary, right? And I had a family, and yeah, you get your room and board paid, and they toss you a car. But again, you got to be frugal, very. But now guys are getting upward 600, 1 million. Shit, I heard Cotton's on 2 million. Like, good on them. Get the bag. That's what I say. But at the end of the day, we got to be able to finance that, and we got to be able to keep teams competitive. So no use one team up there paying all the dollars and the team at the bottom is a scrubber, giving peanuts to the young kids that want to have an opportunity. They're getting spanked every week. That's not going to fly, for a league perspective. But more importantly for me, I'm looking at the administrations and how they handle the marketing and the promotion of the game. I'm looking at Brisbane. No disrespect to my first club I ever played for and the first team I won a championship with. It's an absolute mess. Just seeing, I got a little inside because I know people, and I'm just thinking, man, how could you do that? Like, it's just not going to be conducive to a successful organization, So that's, to me, is more importantly. We got to find people around the game with the business expertise to be able to help lift, and the basketball mind. Don't forget that. A lot of people coming in thinking they can run the show don't know a first thing about how basketball actually works in a community and in the system with the professional people. You got to have a forum just about to talk about those things so that we can kind of pull together so every administration can be able to lift, because no use having one at the bottom and one at the top, and they're so far apart in their means that you can't move the needle at all.
You just said what I think in my head with so many things, but I'm finding at the moment with certain teams, sometimes it's as simple, and this doesn't mean you'll win each year, but it means you'll be thereabouts and you'll be competitive. Is just put the right people in the right places and let them do their job. And if you can support them, support them. But I feel like at the moment, it's not necessarily rosters, it's not the players, it's not the coaches at different times. It's actually a combined of that was never going to work, but you're trying to throw all these pieces in and just hope it works. Some of these decisions don't make a lot of sense to me, and when things don't make sense, I almost go, well, how do you expect that to work?
You knocked it out the park, Jason. you just took. I played a little baseball too. You knocked that one over the fence. You know, it has to. You have to have a plan, but more importantly, you got to have the people. You know,
Yeah.
not. You know, I've been a general manager. I've been a coach. I've kind of had a partial ownership in the Cannons until someone decided to give it to someone else, and then that's where it all went south. You know, but for mine, it's all about finding the right people to drive it. You know, and then people to get behind it. But that person has got to be able to communicate and be able to be a draw card for the community and for support, corporate support. You got to be able to be sitting down with the government officials and gain that total package that would help you bring in the right, like you said, coaches, players, they come and go. But at the same time, you can build on the right people like New Zealand did back in those days with, you know, bringing over Richard Clark was there. And then you get, you know, you brought over
coaching.
Lamont, Andre,
there
you go. And then all of a sudden that thing went, 3 straight championships, you know? And so you look at that. You look at the successful programs. You know, when Sydney won their 3 in a row, you know, they had their administration at the top, all taken care of, you know? But we got to come together on that. And that's why I said some sort of forum to bring everyone together. I know when we have Blitz, we used to have the time where everyone goes into a room and they talk about it.
Yeah.
But now these days, everybody got their cards and, you know, you want to hold on to your, man, it's not about holding on to no ideas, you know? Yeah, it's open slather, you know, like, yo, share. You know, sharing is caring, you know? And if someone steals your stuff, don't worry. You just got to go do more homework and get better at it, you know? I've had so many things stolen from me that I kind of look at it like that's a compliment. You take it as a compliment and then move on to your next thing, you know? So, you know, I think it's important for us to have more teams, but we got to have better administration. And those people that jump into those jobs, like these new owners, they just come in and splash money and then you never see them. And they just putting figureheads in place and don't even know how it's running and don't even care. And in my opinion, they show up. I don't know, again, I'm probably speaking out of school here a little bit, but I've never seen the Brisbane owner. I don't know what he looked like if, you know, he stood right in front of me. But surely you got to be visible when your team is struggling like that and show some accountability on how you trying to bring that together and make it work. You know, right now it's a mystery. And I think when people sit in that position and they're a mystery, well, then the fans feel it and then the community feels it. And before you know it, I'm looking at Boondu and I'm watching the camera angles and they're not trying to flash them cameras up in the stand because all you're going to see is yellow, purple, pink seats, empty, you know? Try to make it look like people are sitting in it. They better put some blow-up dolls up there or something, you know, to make it look proper.
But no, I think expansion is warranted, but I think the most important is who owns it, who they put to make the basketball decisions, and who they put to make the business decisions. I think they're the 2 biggest things you can do straight away. And then hopefully if you get the right people in, they'll make the right decisions that'll help you build. What's the last couple of quick ones? What's your current thoughts on the NBL? Who do you think's winning it?
Well, no doubt Adelaide, they won the last 12 out of 13 or something. So,
yeah,
you know, and Cotton looked like he's only just going to get better, you know, barring, knock on wood, barring no injuries. I got my hand up with them. But then I'm admiring Sydney, but then with their recent run of injuries, you know, that's kind of set them back with Bull Carl out for the season. And then you got Xavier, obviously, with a bad ankle, so he's going to be sus for a few weeks. How they handle that, I guess when you sort of look past them two, then you're looking at Perth, and they're struggling with their top player out with an injury at the moment. But they're probably, in my mind, they got a solid mix in terms of complementary players. They still need the direction and the leadership of their stars, and so far they haven't really clicked on all cylinders in that respect. But I think they're still a threat. And then like I said, I like Melbourne from the beginning, but geez, did they fall off? Like they fell right off, and it don't look good. I'm looking at Dean Vickerman and his body language and how he's talking to players. I've never seen him so demonstrative. He's been really trying to poke him and get things out of him. And I think it was mentioned Milton Doyle is just a shadow of himself. I read somewhere today, which is interesting because he was on fire right at the start. He looked like he's one of the more unstoppable players in the competition. Southeast Melbourne, I can't leave them out. I'm really loving what Sobey's doing. Yeah. He's Jase, y'all was together in Brizzy, and seeing him sort of rise to the point of that performance level, and then like he's taking on all comers, like let's go. They seem to have a chance to be at their peak at the right time. They still got people to come into the squad, and they got some dogs in there too, and so and again, I don't want to leave Tasmania out either, because they just seem to find a way, particularly when they got all guys on deck. So it's going to be an interesting finish to the season, with probably 5 clubs with a chance of upsetting. But when you get to the long-term series, I think I got to look at Adelaide and say, well, their depth is there. They still got another player they can pick up before a deadline or so. And if they do that, then, if Cotton stays healthy along with the rest of their crew, I think they're gonna have bought their first premiership. A long time.
It don't matter how you get it. What about, this is an interesting conversation, but do you think Bryce Cotton can surpass Andrew Gaze?
Woo! Well, 7 MVPs is a lot. Well, he's going to get the 6th one this year, I think. He deserves it. When I look at him and Kendrick, it comes down to the winning, and I think Cotton's got the edge on the leadership side. So he's able to ignite his crew more so than Kendrick does on a more individual performance level. Cotton seems to have guys where he can play with them, make them all better. And at the same time, when he needs to lift, he can go. So I think he's got an excellent chance. He impresses me every time I see him in the way he handles himself off court as well as on. You never read anything about him. You always know that, he's bringing his best. And if you don't guard him the right way, he's going to go for 40. And if you do guard him the right way, he's going to get everybody else with 20. So he understands how to win. And, to me, he could get Andrew. I think, if he gets his 6th MVP, no doubt, the whole team, we gravitate. Let's go. Let's tie it. I don't think he could surpass him with 8. But, it's always nice to be equal top if you can work it like that. I would have liked to have been co-coach of the year at one point when I took Perth, and they gave it to David Lindstrom. I'm like, Dad, how can you do that? I took this team, never had a winning season ever, to the grand final, and you're going to slide me out the back door? Oh, man.
Last question from me. Who had the better career, or who was better at their peak, you or CJ?
And I get asked that a bit.
Know that we're going to send it to him as well.
I'm sorry?
Know that we're going to send it to him as well.
Oh, yeah. No, he'll be on the phone and be straight away. Don't worry about that. Definitely, I feel CJ's had the better career. Back in my day, I was a player and a coach. 5 years out of my 10-year career. So I had all comers coming after me, but I was an MVP, which he hasn't quite. He got MVP grand final, but I was MVP of a Victorian League. I was a run-up MVP of the NBL. I was a championship player in the Southeastern Conference, VBAs, all those sorts of things, which they didn't count in NBL. I played in 5 grand finals, and unfortunately, I lost a couple of them, three of them to be in fact. And taking teams from the bottom and getting them to the top was something I had over him. But when you talk about CJ winning championships at 3 different franchises, in Sydney, Brisbane, and New Zealand, him finishing the career early, and he really wanted to keep on playing, but no one was offering him a deal. and everyone's putting it down to, oh, he's too much money, but never even discussed it. That shortened his career, because I'm looking at Jesse Wagstaff and go, oh my God, he's sitting there trying to get this 7th for the last 4 years or whatever it's been, and hasn't been productive like that. But CJ he's covered everything, and mine, he's made players around him better. He's got the respect of all the players that's ever played with him. And I just wish he had more support as a coach, because I knew that he was on his way, but he, dealing with 1 import, maybe 2 imports when everyone else had 3. He had assistant coaches in the revolving door, not because he got rid of them, but the administration told him they had to go. Missing out on the Brisbane job when he brought in Magnay and worked with Tyrell, Harrison, got them to be where they at. I'm thinking if the right opportunity came along, he would be an excellent head coach if he got the support. So I'm throwing that to my boy, CJ, Cal Bruton Jr. Very, very proud of him. He's in China doing this thing. They finished second in the CBA last year, losing the grand final 4-2 after they lost one of their players through injury. Fambo, one of the top guys, could be an NBA player. And this year they started out 9-2, losing 2 games, close games against the champions again. But he's enjoying it. It's challenging, obviously being in China without your family. That's always it. So we're all on the blower to him all the time, trying to keep him, let him know that we miss him, and we engaged in watching, staying late night watching this game. I'm 1 o'clock in the morning with my Google eyes on, because I had my grandpappy nap a couple hours earlier, just so I can watch him and talk about it. But he's had an outstanding career, and he was rightfully inducted in the Hall of Fame last year, and I'm proud to say that obviously the Gazes hold the mantelpiece for being the highest profile family. But I like to think that we've done more work around the country. They've been pretty much Melbourne-based, and we've been every single state and territory in this country. We're still putting our boots on the ground and going into these communities. And CJ, when he flies in, we put him on the next plane to Darwin, Alice Springs, Cairns, and we're going around putting work in with these young kids. So we feel, I feel like he's done a wonderful job for Australian basketball, and it's a shame that he's not in the country right now applying his trade, but hopefully that won't be too long in the distant future before he can come back and do it. But appreciate the question, Jason. I'm sure he will see it.
Don't worry, the Bruton family wins, mate. It doesn't matter.
Good on you. Well on you.
Well, Cal, it's been awesome to have you on. Obviously, one of the greatest people to have around basketball in this country for a very long time. One of the best ambassadors for basketball in Australia, and the work you do should be commended on. But, mate, really happy to have you on Cut to the Jase, and I'm sure we'll see you around the corner at a basketball stadium somewhere around the country soon.
Thank you. And you guys are doing a wonderful job. I know I've never been in a position to just do a podcast on family. I'm trying to do the family thing. But I love what you guys doing and getting the word out there with all the different levels of professionalism, on court and off, and keep it up. Guys got it rocking and rolling.
Appreciate it, Cal, mate. Welcome back to Cut to the Jase. What a special interview with Cal Bruton and Jase. He's someone both of us have had a lot to do with, and their families, but what an icon, I guess, of Australian basketball, in particular the NBL.
No, he is. He always has been. Like, he just loves it. He loves basketball. He loves that he's able to have such an impact on the whole basketball community. And I've had a lot to do with CJ, especially in the last kind of 10 years. Even when I was younger, like CJ, when I was coming back from my car accident, Gold Coast were playing New Zealand. He came down to our room. We were living like where I lived with Big Joe. That's where the away team stayed. CJ came down game day and rolled in to say hi to Big Joe, checked in on me, played NBA 2K with me for about 2 hours. Then when it had probably like 30 points, he was just, their family are just those type of people where they just love being around. They love talking. We knew this episode was
definitely love talking.
We knew this episode was going to go longer having a Bruton on, but I think what he's doing and obviously what he's got going on with AI and Hoops Fest and everything around the NBL and basketball, it's a great story, and it's great for people to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. And just on that point, CJ helped me a lot in my coaching journey too. When I stopped playing or stopped sitting on the bench, he was the head coach of the Spartans in the Siebel, and I think I was 22 at the time, and he took me on as his assistant and then pushed me forward to get my first head coaching gig. So a great family, and have done a lot for Australian basketball. But I just quickly, I don't know, we spoke a little bit about it when he was on. I don't know if the idea of a Bruton basketball family podcast, maybe a 24-hour live stream might be the way to go. I don't think that's a possibility, Jase.
It would go a long time, and I don't know that the recording would go way too long. And whatever the structure was of that episode, I guarantee it is not followed. It would be entertaining, though.
A producer's nightmare. But yeah, great chat with Cal Bruton, and we of course look forward to seeing AI out here as well. What a treat for Australian basketball fans. But that's all we have for the first edition back of Cut to the Jase for 2026. We've got a massive college edition coming next week, so we'll see you all then.